Welcome to Newsline. I'm Samantha Lowcock.
And I'm Christy Long. Coming up on today's program, why Aussie apprentices are dropping out, how Sudanese settlers are integrating into society, plus we take a look at what's new in the gaming world.
In the United States, a key floodgate of the Mississippi River has been opened in an attempt to save New Orleans and other major cities from the river's worst flooding in 73 years. 25,000 residents have been evacuated and several small towns in the low-lying Cajun country will be destroyed. However, without the release of the water, New Orleans would experience floods far worse than the ones caused by the devastating Hurricane Katrina in 2005.
A duo from Azerbaijan has won the 56th annual Eurovision Song Contest in Dusseldorf. Nigar Jamal and Eldar Gazimov, better known as Eldar and Nikki, won the hearts of Europe over the 2-week-long competition with their classic ballad Running Scared. It's the country's first victory since entering the competition in 2008. Italy finished runners-up, with Sweden coming third overall.
Now Rita Azar joins us for the latest in the day's news. Rita, I hear the Director of Public Prosecution's in a bit of trouble.
Indeed, Samantha, the Director of Public Prosecution, Jeremy Rapke, has been forced to resign last Friday following the investigation by former Judge Frank Vincent. The investigation concluded that Mr. Rapke made an error of judgment by appointing a young solicitor, Diana Karamikov, and 2 other solicitors in the position of Associate Chief Prosecutor. There was also allegation that Mr. Rapke had a relationship with Ms. Karamikov, but those allegations have been denied by Mr. Rapke. Attorney General Robert Clark said that he won't release the report because it contains too sensitive information, but said that the Office of Public Prosecution will have a major reform.
So Rita, tell me about yesterday's protest in Federation Square.
Yes, indeed, Christy. It's the Australian Defence League that held their first rally yesterday and clashed with left-wing protesters. The Australian Defence League supports the idea that Australia is in danger of being Islamicized. The police kept apart the 2 groups, but the protest ended quite early, considering that the ADL got encircled and also their placard was torn apart, and so that's how the protest ended yesterday in Federation Square.
And Rita, I hear the head of the International Monetary Fund is in trouble. What happened?
Yes, that's right. Well, Dominique Strauss-Kahn has been charged with attempted rape and also sexual assault. It's a housekeeper in the Sofitel in New York City that came into the room of Mr. Strauss-Kahn to clean it, not knowing that Mr. Strauss-Kahn was still in the room. So the allegation was that Mr. Strauss-Kahn allegedly forced the maid to perform oral sex. So the maid reported the event right away to the police officer, and Mr. Strauss-Kahn was arrested minutes really before boarding a flight to go to Paris. So the lawyer of Mr. Strauss-Kahn said that he will plead not guilty.
Thanks for that, Rita. The place of African refugees in Australia is always a hot topic of discussion. In today's age, former Immigration Minister Amanda Vanstone writes that populist refugee bashing should have no place in Australia. The concern is well-founded, as I found there are many challenges facing Sudanese settlers in Melbourne.
The Sudanese have a large and visible presence in many of our suburbs, with many community members having fled the country's second civil war. The experiences faced by these refugees in their war-torn, corrupt homeland have made it difficult for some to integrate into Australian society.
People look at us, no greeting, no fellowship, and we thought that, okay, maybe we are not wanted there.
Tut Yoa, a pastor who migrated to Australia in 2004, is not alone in experiencing this isolation. Many other Sudanese settlers are also faced with struggling to overcome the horrors of their homeland.
I didn't find someone to help me overcome my trauma, overcome my difficulties, overcome my problems. So I struggle on my own.
Experts say Sudanese settlers have also faced negative experiences in their attempts to integrate into the Australian community.
There's a lot of myths and misunderstandings about the contributions of refugees and asylum seekers to this country.
Miss Olive says a lack of understanding among Australians about the culture and behavioural traits of Sudanese settlers has led to a negative perception arising.
Fear of the unknown or the visibly different. Perhaps Sudanese young people may be more street present, and there was also, I think, a lack of political leadership at the time.
While the political point scoring might have eased off, Sudanese settlers are still finding it hard to find housing and employment.
For newly arrived refugees, finding a rental is extremely difficult.
High costs of living and a lack of rental history often means settlers are forced into substandard housing in relatively disadvantaged areas. Limited work experience and difficulty understanding job requirements makes it difficult for many Sudanese settlers to find work. Many also find their qualifications are not recognised in Australia.
The first question is that why I shouldn't go to the Sudanese Community Association and do my volunteering work? Why should I work only for the Sudanese community and not work for other organisations in Australia?
Many Sudanese settlers also face racism, both from individuals and the media.
I was so happy thinking that everything is fine. But gradually, things begin to change. People are coming from very, very low level to high level. Like from village to town life. It's a big shock, and that is why we have a lot of disadvantages.
Experts agree this makes integrating difficult.
We don't see news about the positive achievements. There are many young people who have graduated. There are others, who have done traineeship and they are working as well, so they are supporting the families.
Melburnians appear divided about whether they want to welcome Sudanese settlers.
I definitely wouldn't want people living in my community that do that type of thing.
If we didn't open the doors, it would be a stupid, backward-looking, xenophobic nation that would shrivel up.
Since I support Manchester United, we accept everybody.
Hopefully Melbourne people show their tolerance eventually like they do with any other new migrant group.
Thankfully, many organisations like AMIS and the Migrant Information Centre are helping the Sudanese to integrate by providing educational, employment and housing opportunities.
They took us to Centrelink, they took us to Medicare, they help enrolling my children.
But much more needs to be done.
Language support, vocational training, networking, because it's whom you know which matters sometimes, and not what you know.
There's always room for improvement, and the Refugee Council holds annual consultations, national consultations, to find out how our settlement services are and to provide some recommendations for how they can improve.
Christy Long, Newsline.
Thanks for that, Christy. And still to come on Newsline, the latest in business, sport and weather. Plus, we take a look at why Australia wants an R18 Games rating and why apprentices are dropping out.